So we're talking about free agency, but I guess we're starting with a trade. Matt Olson traded to the Braves. It has ripples throughout free agency, but a huge trade that many foresaw coming if the Braves were not going to bring back Freddie Freeman, which is a whole other discussion that we can get into. But Matt Olson goes to Atlanta, then eventually signs an extension, 8 years. I think it was $160-something million.
168, I believe.
168. And they get back Christian Pache, Shea Langoliers, Ryan Cusick, and Joey Estes from the Atlanta Braves. That's depending on where you look, some of the highest prospects in the Braves system, including Christian Pache, who I believe MLB Pipeline still has as the number one prospect in their organization. So pretty big return for the A's, but it kind of marks a lot of things that I'll let you get into.
Yeah, Matt Olson is one of my favorite first basemen. I really think I wanted the Dodgers to actually make a move for him, and it was never really likely, but I would have loved him in a Dodgers uniform. But I think this is great for the Braves. I think maybe they saw what was coming with Freddie Freeman, and they maybe got tired of waiting and just had to make a move to secure hometown guy, Matt Olson from Atlanta, and immediately signed him to an extension. So it's not just a rental. So it was justified in what they gave up for him. And I think it'll be good for them. And obviously it'll have an impact on the Freddie Freeman market. Obviously the Braves aren't in on him anymore. And there's a lot about him that is still uncertain. And we'll get into that later when we talk about him. But for now, I think it's great for the Braves that they made sure they got their first baseman for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think it if you take out the idea that Freddie Freeman was once a Brave, and not even once a Brave, but like one of the more meaningful players that the Braves have had in our generation, and you could argue one of the better Braves of all time. If you take that out of the way, it looks like a good trade. Like, honestly, giving up what they gave up, I would say it's a good return. And the extension after is another great move by Atlanta to lock down their young players. And also for a pretty solid price. I would take 8 years for $168 million from Matt Olson in a heartbeat, especially adding on top of what they're giving Albies and Acuna. But the idea that they had Freddie Freeman, who they just didn't want to pay for a long time, and they gave up a very large amount of their farm system for Matt Olson, you're kind of just weighing the two. And obviously one sounds, like you're giving up a lot less. And I know the Braves didn't want to re-sign Freddie for the years that he wanted, but with everything that he meant to the Atlanta Braves, with everything that he brought them, including getting them to a World Series and helping them win one this past year, it just sits the wrong. I don't know. It doesn't sit well for me when I look at the whole picture.
Yeah. One of my good friends here is a Braves fan. When the news first broke, I texted him. I was like, what do you think? And he wasn't too happy about it because obviously it means you're giving up your franchise icon who was, until a couple years ago when Ronald Acuna and Albies came, they really started to compete and it ended in a world title. But until a few years ago, he was the franchise. And while Matt Olson might be the same like caliber type of player at first base, it does suck to lose out on your guy who's been in your franchise for so long. And you saw the Braves, I think it was their GM crying in an interview talking about the trade just because of what it meant giving up Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, and it's also giving up some of the guys that have grown in their system for a long time and some guys that could have provided a lot of value down the road. And I think the only way that you justify Matt Olson over Freddie Freeman is, Matt Olson is a younger player and you don't want to be tied down to Freddie Freeman for quite as long, but you're also leveraging a lot of your future in order to make that move. Christian Pache, who I know you've become a big fan of him since the trade to Oakland, but we've seen him. He's a talented player. He's elite on defense, still has yet to find it with the bat at the major league level, but the potential is still there. He's been a top prospect in their system for a long time. Shea Langoliers is supposed to be, maybe their next great catcher, one of the better catching prospects in baseball. And then two pitchers that were ranked 9th and 14th in our system, in Ryan Cusick and Joey Estes. So they're giving up a large chunk, and now that all goes to Oakland. So I think, yes, you're getting Matt Olson for a longer time, which you didn't want Freddie for obviously 8 years down the road, but you're also leveraging a lot of the future. So I don't know if you had that same opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you mentioned I became a Pache fan since the trade. And what he's referring to is after the trade, Pache tweeted something. Saying he was heartbroken that he was leaving the Brave system, but he's pledged to give his all to the A's organization. And I think it just really shows how human the guys are in the league. And like these guys, he was signed as an international free agent coming to Atlanta, and now he's traded, and it just shows his human side. And I really became a big fan of him in that way.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing that this signals is the A's are really going to start moving a lot of their guys. We saw it with Chris Bassett, who we're going to get to that trade. Actually, well, we can talk about it right now, but they traded Chris Bassett to the Mets as well. They got some guys back for that as well. But Chris Bassett's gone, Matt Olson's gone, and we're hearing that, Matt Chapman, Sean Murphy, Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea, like those are all guys that could be on the move as well. And we all thought this could happen, but I think now we're seeing it come to fruition, and we may be seeing 3 to 5 more A's moved in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, the A's fire sale is well underway, and it's going to be ugly here for the A's for a little while. And it sucks to see some A's fans, what they have to go through. You get these guys who are really good, and then the minute they need to get paid, they're gone. And it just sucks that the A's, they haven't had like a franchise guy who just sticks around like a Freddie Freeman in a long time, who they keep even during the tough years. And it sucks to see for A's fans, but it's just the way the A's are nowadays.
And we're from the Bay Area, so we've obviously have run-ins with a lot of A's fans and all the time. And we've been to A's games. No one goes to A's games relatively compared to a lot of other MLB franchises. They've got some of the worst attendance in all of sports, and it's going to get way worse. Like you're right. It does suck to have a team that has had a long history of really good players, even recently, that just don't get brought back or they get traded away. And that's just tough to see. And I'm sure glad I'm not an A's fan, because you just can't have nice things if you're an A's fan.
Yeah. And I think, that just might be the way it is for a while for the A's. Just, it's tough to see. Maybe if they get their new stadium approved and they get some more fans there, maybe you keep them. But for now, that it is what it is. And you want to get into some more of the free agency moves that we saw in the last few days.